They left the barn door open. Yeah. That's fine. It's fine. I like it. It's comforting. It's like
I do too.
It's like a little homey attitude right there. Z, how are you? You feeling up to it?
Tommy, I'm more than up to it. A lot of stuff going on. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I'm focused on the NFL draft. I have left the NFL postseason, the Super Bowl that we just wrapped up.
Yeah.
And I'm all about the draft, not going to it.
Now you went to it last year. That was a big production now. I mean, what are you going to do this year? What's the difference?
Well, it being at Lambeau Field, I'm not going to lie, that's enemy turf.
I understand.
I felt like being up in Detroit, it was common ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being at Lambeau, I feel like something could go wrong by the end of the first night of that draft.
Would it wind up you trying to jump on top of that wall there and maybe hurting yourself or something like that? Yeah.
I'm scared they're going to take an offensive lineman and I'll just start a dumpster on fire outside the Lambeau Field.
I'd pay to see that. Now that would be something terrific.
Exactly.
Well, I'll keep us posted on what happens at the draft because I still don't understand the whole thing about the draft. But now there's okay.
Whoa.
That's kind of the moment I've been dreading because that means we're going to start this thing called TnZ. It's a podcast deal, right, Z?
Well, it is, Tommy. It's a podcast deal, and here's the best way to put what this is, and I've wanted to do this with you, my friend.
Same here.
This TnZ podcast is going to be pretty much everything you and I have talked about on Bassmaster Live the last 21 years on camera, and I would say everything pretty much that we have talked about off camera. If you are a fan of the Bassmaster Elite Series, this is going to be an all-you-can-eat buffet of the Bassmasters.
Okay.
Yes.
And you've pulled out the curtain at the end of the buffet line, and we're going to include some stuff that maybe we would not have said during these, because I think we talked about this. My job still is to comfort the afflicted, but now you are in a position to afflict the comfortable a little bit. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Well, exactly. Here's the best way to put it. 2024 was pretty much the craziest year, I think, in the history of us working together and of viewers tuning into the Bassmaster Elite Series. So we'll talk about a lot of things that I probably could not have talked about being in the seat next to you in the JM studio. So it'll be here's what it'll be. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of what's going on, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly. But the other side of it is we always like to think when we're doing Bassmaster Live that we're constantly right. when the majority of the time we have been wrong. We're going to have special guests throughout the entire year to tell us when we suck, which will probably be very, very often. But hopefully we'll be right a few times as well.
Well, hopefully we don't have to retroactively explain every time we failed and we're wrong, because that would take a whole nother podcast for sure. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about what we got coming up today. Episode number 1. We don't have a tournament on the Elite books yet, so we're going to take a look at what's happened last year and what's going to come up in 2025. We talk about issues from 2024. One of those, Z, is entry fees. That was like a big, super big headline on all the industry publications, including Bassmaster.com. There are no entry fees for elite anglers anymore.
Yes, well, actually, there is a $10,000 best way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into some picks for at least the first tournament, the St. Johns River, and then we're going to have throughout every single podcast. If you're a big fan of just sports shows in general, okay, sports shows in general, we're going to have a thing called First Flight and Last Flight. And if you watch, like, say, what's the name of the one that we watch on FS1? All of the first things first. They have a thing that's called Mahomes Mountain, where it shows the quarterback tiers. Okay.
Oh, tiers.
We're going to have what's called First Flight, Last Flight, which basically is going to be who we feel are killing it. Okay.
Okay.
But something we've never talked about on the Bassmasters, Bassmaster Live. We don't talk about who throws interceptions. We don't talk about who is sucking that needs to dig out of the bottom, and that will be called Last Flight. We will have a lot of fun with that, but there will be a lot of truth involved in that, and that's something that I think has been desperately missing in the bass fishing world, to say, hey, look, these guys are not performing and need to step it up. So a lot of that stuff, there'll be a lot of truth involved in First Flight, Last Flight.
All right. And plus, as you just mentioned a minute ago, we're going to do our picks at the end of the show for the first event down at the St. Johns River down there in Florida. So we'll be thinking about that, and hopefully we won't pick the same person, and we can go back and forth about that a little bit.
Yeah, and one of the things with that, with the St. Johns River, there's a couple variables this time around that we definitely did not have in tournaments past on the St. Johns River. Besides a lot of the environment, as you got to talk about, we were talking about it off camera. Rodman Reservoir not in play this time around, which that should greatly affect some of the picks for this event. Absolutely.
A lot of things to consider, and we'll know more about that as we get closer, but that's not going to stop us from making predictions early on in the game before the tournament takes place. So with that in mind, let's go and talk about the people who are paying the bills here. It's time for a sponsor interlude on TnZ, sponsored by Strike King.
Exactly right. Strike King and Luz, the Rather Outdoors crew. We got to thank them. And here's how this is going to work throughout this podcast, Tommy, is that, hey, they were the first one on board. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something special throughout every single podcast. I'm going to show a few different products. The first one is going to be this one right here. Okay. This is a Luz Custom Pro Reel. And Tommy, what makes this reel special? It's called the Paramag braking system, and you could laugh at a big high-tech term like that, but what that does is I actually put this reel in an 8-year-old's hand the other day. I was fishing with a friend, Greg Hackney, unnecessary name drop right there. If you don't like backlashes, Tommy, the Paramag braking system is for you, and why I say that, it is almost like you need to try to backlash this reel. Put it in an 8-year-old's hands, and it was absolute butter fluid, kid never backlashed. And here's the beauty of what we're going to do with these Strike King and Luz products. All of these products per show, at the end of it, I'm going to show one last lure at the end of our sesh today. I'm going to show a lure, and I'm going to name its color. Go to my Instagram page. I'm going to put up a picture of that lure. Just name the color. I'm going to pick one of you randomly every single podcast. And I'm going to pick one of you randomly, and I'm going to send you all of the stuff we talk about for free. Let's go.
All right. Am I eligible? Can I get in on that? Or
Tommy, you can win that Luz Custom Pro like anybody. Mike McInnes, who's in the truck right now, he can sign up. In fact, I might pick you just to get my products back.
Okay, that's I forget the 8-year-olds. I'm sure I'm on top of your gift list for something that can keep you from backlash. And so let's keep that in mind. All right, let's get on with something we like to call for 2024 News, Notes, and Nuggets. I'm stealing your phrase right there, say it. There you go.
News, Notes, and Nugget. Exactly right. And basically what News, Notes, Nugget is going to be, we're going to kick it off this year really talking about, boy, it's hard to come out of the gates firing on a topic that has been, so saturated throughout the last 2 years, being forward-facing sonar, okay?
Yeah.
We're going to kind of jump right in to what happened last year on the Bassmaster Elite Series. I think it was talked about on pretty much every bass fishing forum, and really it reared its ugly head on a body of water, Toledo Bend, to come out of the gates. And look, the best way to put it, the first 2 tournaments last year from Toledo Bend to Lake Fork, not quite as much when we were down in Florida, but then we went to Lake Murray. It was a shallow water forward-facing situation. And then, oh my gosh, Smith Lake. Then we went up north, Champlain, St. Lawrence River. And basically 80% of the entire season was forward-facing sonar. That being said, what do you do? Okay, what do you do?
Yeah.
what was the right decision on this? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what the right decision is. Yes, I think Bassmaster limited how many screens and
inches
transducers and whatever. Look, the majority of the field, they are an assassin. That dude being one of them, Patrick Walters, they're assassins with one unit. They're fantastic with it. To me, the best way to combat an entire forward-facing sonar season comes down to one thing: your schedule. Okay, I don't. You and I've talked about this, and Davey and Mercer and the whole production crew. I don't think it's bad having forward-facing sonar. I think where forward-facing sonar was bad in 2024 is there was so much of it by the end of the year, which comes down to your schedule. Okay. And I think that's going to be up to the group at B.A.S.S every single year to do whatever they can to have diversity. Look, if you have 9 tournaments that when you get to Championship Sunday, you got 10 dudes on camera holding their rod over their shoulder, waiting to throw a jig head minnow, that sucks. That sucks. And I really think looking at what the schedule, and I've talked to a lot of anglers about this, looking at the schedule this year, I think B.A.S.S really did a good job coming out with a schedule that has a lot of diversity. Okay. And we are going to look at this schedule right here and kind of break down. If you look at the tournaments that we're going into for 2025, without having Rodman in play, not going to be a massive factor at the St. Johns River, especially if we get into warming effects. Yes, it's going to be a factor at Okeechobee in the canal. There is a lot of young anglers that did good in the Open last year with forward-facing sonar in the canal. Look, places like the Pasquotank River, and let me talk to you before we move on, before we talk about forward-facing sonar, I have done a little homework on that Pasquotank River in North Carolina.
I've been there with the Bassmaster since early 80s, right? Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of our anglers were not even close to being born yet the last time. That right there, every year I think that there's an X factor on the Bassmaster Elite Series. Talking to local anglers, talking to one of the Elite Series pros, Jacob Porosnik, he said that could turn out to be the highlight of the 2025 season.
Really?
Shallow water, frogging, flipping, fish is very, very big. There were several local tournaments last year that 16 to 18 pounds, and you are not remotely sniffing a check. And the other thing that Porosnik said about that Pasquotank River, before we jump back into the rest of the schedule for 2025, is his exact words. I'm kind of jealous that I'm not covering that tournament with you guys. He said, Bassmaster is hitting it right on the head for a shallow water thrash fest. Look, if you really look at this schedule, the places that are going to probably shine for forward-facing sonar, we're going to definitely see it at Lake Fork. Going to see it 10 Killer, Lake St. Clair. But I'm going to tell you, Hartwell a little bit, but we have covered tournaments at Hartwell in April. There is a mass population they're going to be shallow that time of year.
Right.
I give a hats off that, and I'm like maybe not a lot of the viewers, but I still want to see forward-facing sonar as a part of the schedule.
Sure.
I just don't think it's going to be like 2024, where it was a bulk of the schedule. I think it'll be 50%, if not a little bit less, when we get to Championship Sundays throughout this season. And I think that's a very, very good thing.
All right. Now, how about the Mississippi River? That's the one that kind of baffles me a little bit. What?
No,
not at all. Not at all. Nowhere.
No. Mississippi River, when we get to the end of the season, I mean, there could be a little bit around La Crosse.
The bridges, around the bridges.
Of course. But if you really look at what went down fishing south of La Crosse last time we were there, dude, that was a bass fishing tournament.
Yeah,
that was a bass fishing tournament.
The spillway, all those places. Yeah. They'll be the same, right?
And look, there is one common denominator. If you really look at anywhere we go that says the word river, for the most part, not St. Lawrence, but when we go to places, Pasquotank River, Sabine River, Mississippi River, those get way more in traditional style tournaments. And that's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. I do see the next few years on the Bassmasters. I see my vibe is if I'm the scheduled doctor, if I'm the Eric Lopez of scheduling the Bassmaster Elite Series, I think going back to maybe not the Tennessee River quite as much, because I think that would definitely favor the forward-facing sonar, but places that are kind of off the beaten path that maybe we haven't gone to in years past, in a long while. Not a bad thing. And this year, look, unnecessary name drop again. I hang around Greg Hackney. And Greg Hackney does not like turning the voodoo box on. He will turn the voodoo box on. I really picked his brain about this schedule, and he does not cut corners. Last week, Hackney said, I don't think Bassmaster could have done a better job for diversity this season compared to 2024, when it was the biggest topic across the entire board. And not only that, now this is a selfish thing. I had people ask me, they're like, dude, did you leave Bassmaster Live because of forward-facing sonar? And the truth is yes.
I was going to say no. I thought it was because of me.
It wasn't that.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't that. But you know this. It makes it, when you're watching, not a lot of diversity. I always compared forward-facing sonar tournaments with you off camera to when we would cover just a sight fishing tournament where everybody was doing the exact same thing, and there was a lack of different techniques by the time you got to the final day. It made commentating those tournaments a big chore.
Sure.
But besides commentating it also the viewing experience was harder throughout a lot of those. Don't get me wrong, we're still going to have tournaments like that, but to have tournaments sandwiched in between that are still going to get back to flipping, to frogging, to boat docking, that's a good thing, man. That's a very good thing.
Okay, now Hackney gives Bass an A, and Bass said this is part of our strategy. The inches, the number of transducers, and the scheduling is. He gives him an A. Do you give him an A to Bassmaster?
I give him a solid B plus. Okay. I give him a solid B plus on that. And look, if you're going to allow your anglers to have forward-facing sonar on the front of your boat, it is your job. It is your job as an organization to get that schedule right, to where it caters to the forward-facing sonar angler, to the one that dabbles in forward-facing sonar yet still fishes traditionally, or if you're a John Cox or almost a Greg Hackney, he'll still turn it on, where it almost favors all three categories instead of just one of those.
All right, let's talk about that third category. They're the guys who don't want to turn it on, really have not been, openly embracing it with open arms. They're gonna be continuing to deal with it if they keep fishing with the elite. Do they get better at it? I mean, how are their attitudes? Are their attitudes going to soften toward this? Are they going to become better at it and start really loving it instead of not liking it?
No.
Okay.
No, because they're professional bass fishermen. To be, and listen, throughout the decades and decades and decades is anglers resist change. You know that well as anybody. But as you personally have said, forward-facing sonar, just stopping it is you're stopping technology, which I don't agree with doing that. And you made the comment, it would be like putting toothpaste back into a tube. And I do agree with that. This year, and we're going to absolutely get into this in First Flight when I tell you the 4 anglers that I picked and why I picked them. What you want to see as a viewer, as a Bassmaster Live fan, you want to see somebody that can do it all.
Yeah.
Not just flipping frog, not just turn that sonar on and live by that the whole year. To me, to hold an Angler of the Year title, to hold that title, you need it. To me, the whole thing, Tommy, with being a Bassmaster Angler of the Year is a season of versatility.
That's
season of versatility.
Yes.
If it's just, hey, you threw a jig head minnow the entire year, yeah, you win the Angler of the Year title. Throughout every article in Bassmaster magazine, to be a really, really great, not a good professional angler, it's always been versatility. And I think the last 2 years, that's gone away. That's gone away because it's been a little bit more, you're really good at hunting with your trolling motor and depth finder. And that's the game that had to have been played. You are not going to be able to get away in 2025 just doing that. It cannot happen.
How about you? You use it a lot? Do you embrace it? Do you sort of test it? Are you a beta tester for?
And really, where I cut my teeth with it was throughout the pandemic. And I realized to sit in the seat next to you and work with Davey and the JM crew and Bassmaster, I had better know exactly what this thing does. Do I use it? Absolutely, because it's my job. But I would say I'm a 50-50 angler when I'm doing content and Zona show and blah blah blah. I'm gonna serve it and tell what its strengths are. But I'm also, dude, the beauty of bass fishing and what I've learned throughout the last 21 years with you, what has made the best bass anglers in the world is having the sixth sense of just the intuition, man, I need to change right now. Not I need to turn my trolling motor from 60 to 80 and find more fish with this sonar. It's having that sixth sense of, all right, I've been out here winding a bladed jig. Ooh, look at that lay down. All right, I've been fishing boat docks all day. I need to go crank a ledge. And the best, the best anglers that we have ever covered have that sense about them. Aaron Martins was one of the best at it. Kevin Van Dam was one of the best at it. Gerald Swindle has made a career, not winning tournaments, but he has made a career on that ability to transition when he's sucking. And to me, that is what a professional angler truly is.
Well, you can remember when I started and shortly into the time you started, I mean, drop shotters were considered out there. You know, they were, everybody had to learn how to, and then everybody learned how to do it. You know, I'm not saying this is the same situation, but you know.
It's not quite that situation. Right. But somebody that should the best of the best just be able to turn on a sonar and win an Angler of the Year title just by shining? I don't know. That's why I think it is up to Bass to have that diversity throughout their season, and I think they did that.
They're going to have to change the rules more as it goes along, right? As the stuff gets more powerful. And our buddy P. Robbins, he had an essay over on Bassmaster.com saying, look, everybody's claiming the catch rate's going to be too high, it's going to be hurting the resource. Nobody knows that yet. That stuff hasn't been measured yet. Don't jump the gun, but yeah, wait for all that info to come out and then keep legislating to make it more level, right?
Oh, yeah, but look, here's the thing. One of the reasons I know they went down to one transducer. There were anglers, several anglers that had a saltwater transducer on their trolling motor, and then right next to it a freshwater transducer. Saltwater shoots out, a quarter mile, and then they race to where those fish were at, and then pick them off with their freshwater transducer, which did not beam out as much. Look, man, that's getting overboard, and I'm glad there's been a limit put on that. For
all
sure.
Right. Good. Is that all for FFS today? That's all for FFS.
That's it. That's it. Not really,
right.
but
that brings us to the next item of business here, and I wanted to explain this some more. First flight. We're going to talk about the first flight, and this is going to change with every podcast, right?
Yes, absolutely. And here's what first flight and last flight are going to be, okay? First flight are going to be who I think, and you're going to throw a few out too. You're going to throw a few out.
Yeah.
The hammers, not just first through fourth place last year. Is absolutely not going to be that. It is going to be the guys that, when we all do this as pundits, we pick who we feel. We always do who's going to win Angler of the Year. To me, first flight, it's the apex, man. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Josh Allen. It's Jalen Hurts, right?
Sure.
That's who first flight is gonna be, and it's gonna fluctuate. Coming into this year, though, this is interesting. My number four pick is not yet an Elite Series fisherman. It's somebody coming out of the Opens, Dakota Hebert from East Texas. Look, if you are somebody that decides to leave the organization that you are fishing, that you are not only fishing, but you're dominating, okay? Dakota Hebert has competed against guys, not just competed, he has done well against guys like Jacob Wheeler, Dustin Connell. Dude, that's scary. And I really think the one thing to watch with Dakota, come out of the gates firing. Dakota's going to do his damage when we get to Texas, when we get up north. And I want our viewers right now. There are three common denominators of the four anglers I picked. Three common denominators of why I picked these anglers, and I'm going to get to that after the final angler here in first flight.
All right.
Dakota Hebert, number 4, just come out of the gates firing. Going to be a little bit of nerves. St. John's River, Lake Okeechobee, come out firing. Dude obviously did absolutely fantastic. Qualifying through the Opens, taking 7th in the EQ. Number 4, Dakota Hebert. Number 3, low-hanging fruit, man. Low-hanging fruit. Jordan Lee. Jordan Lee taking 9th place in AOY. Again, possesses the 3 variables that I'm looking for in my first flight. And really the thing with Jordan Lee last year, it's weird coming back to the Bassmaster Elite Series after taking his field trip. Jordan Lee, we looked at him 6 years ago as one of the dudes that could chase a Rick Clunn for classics, a Kevin Van Dam for those 4 classics, because Jordan Lee, 2 classic titles right now. And Tommy, you know this, he was so frighteningly close to winning a 3rd on Lake Guntersville.
No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. First one.
I really believe Jordan Lee still has, and this is what's surprising, Jordan Lee does not have a Bassmaster Angler of the Year title under his belt, and had a very quiet 9th place finish. Number two, Patrick Walters, young Patty Walters. And here's something a little bit scary about Patrick Walters. Possesses those 3 variables. His lowest angler of I'm not a stat guy. I'm not a Ken Duke. I'm not a Ron Moore or Such. Okay. Let me run through something real quick with young Patty Walters. Number 1, Patrick Walters, and we'll talk about this a little more in this podcast. He's never going to tell us the truth if he's catching them. No. If he's not catching them, what he's using. He's not going to do that. Check this out. 2019, his lowest in Angler of the Year points. Tommy, that was a 16th place finish.
That's phenomenal.
Then backed it up with a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, a 3rd, and a 12th place in Angler of the Year finishes. Patrick Walters, number 2 in first flight. Let's leave him.
Okay.
Let's leave him. This is a weird one right here. I call this one Carissa Johnston. It's not one angler. It's not one angler. It's one angler meshed. It's 2 anglers meshed into one. Really stare at that photo right there. It's a mix of Corey and Chris Johnston. You want to know why? Because they work as one. If you really watch what they do on the water, it's something that has defied odds. Tommy, we have watched for the past 20 years together anglers that try to work as teams. Generally, it implodes
and
falls
apart at some point. Always falls apart.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't happen with these two outlaws, Canadian outlaws. And here's the one thing. I said that we were going to talk about when we're right. I said we were going to talk about when we're wrong. Here's where I was wrong about these two. I always thought that they would cannibalize each other by the end of the season for an Angler of the Year title. Has not happened. Has not happened. Chris Johnston winning Angler of the Year last year, but I really looked at their stats. Corey has posted a 3rd in Angler of the Year and another 3rd in Angler of the Year. And listen to this right here. Chris has a 1st, a 2nd, and a 3rd. These 2 anglers, Carissa Johnston, they are 1 unit on the water. They're 1 unit off the water, sharing their winnings. And they have, to me, these 2, I mean this, have defied all odds when it comes to working as a team. That is my first flight, ending with Carissa Johnston.
I totally agree with you about the Johnston. But at this point, I mean, they got to prove us wrong. Who couldn't say that they are the best bet as the team to do the most damage in the Angler of the Year race and winning overall? They're definitely the guys. They've spent way more time in the top 10 than they have outside in the whole 6 years they have been out there. So,
And let me throw one more thing about that. Is obviously you look at their strengths and stuff like that. The 3 variables that I looked at in those 4 anglers, the 3 variables that I looked for is, number 1, how are you with forward-facing Zona? All 4 of those anglers are weapons with it.
Okay.
But all 4 of those anglers are very powerful at being able to pull the ripcord, to pull the kill switch, and go shallow and be hammers. We have seen that with all 4 of these anglers throughout time. The last variable, how are these 4 anglers on smallmouth? You combine who's good with forward-facing sonar, who's also good at being a traditional fisherman, and then which anglers are hammers when you go up north. Those were the 3 variables, and I think all 4 of these anglers possess that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to argue with you on any of those right there. All I would do is offer you just maybe an alternate sort of way to look at possibilities for the season of 2025. And I was thinking about possibly an Alabama. Maybe an all Alabama, and I'm going to add Jordan Lee. I totally agree with that. He's in the top 4 anyway. You slice the thing right there. I would put in Justin Hamner, also from Alabama, won the Classic, leading AOI going into the final event last year. Unfortunately, he was only 13 points ahead of Chris Johnston, so that is doom right there. But still, just to get to that point with those sort of accolades so far in the season. And, Justin Hamner, definitely one of those guys. Second one from Alabama, I would put in definitely Kyle Welcher. Yes. He finished down there a bit last year, but he was the Angler of the Year before that. He talk about one of these guys that can change and has the total capacity to do just about anything. And if he needs to change, he can do it and do it as well as anyone else. I think Kyle Welcher. And the heart of this guy, I always brag on him for what happened the year he won, 2023, when he won Angler of the Year. He had it wrapped up on the final day, had boat trouble, and he lost half a day, and still he took it upon himself to get out there into the lake, into the mess, into the maelstrom to finish out that day. Now that's heart. That's kind of what it takes to be a winner. That's why I can't leave Kyle Welcher out of that. And of course you add Jordan Lee in there, and that's your Alabama group right there. And isn't there one other name we need to think about?
I I think you had one more.
I had one more, yeah. I'm going to say it's probably the elephant in the room times 10, and the name that hasn't come up in our flights yet, and that is Trey McKinney. Because Trey McKinney just absolutely had his second tournament ever as a pro. 19 years. Think about you and me when we were 19 years old. What would you? Yeah. I mean, my icon would be a kid with a dunce hat on, standing in a garbage can. You know, I mean, so there's a little icon for Trey, just only as a troublemaker, an imp, as they call him.
Hold on. Go back to there. Let's not get to the other Trey McKinney. The Trey McKinney. Let's start with the angelic one. Go back. There's two Trey McKinneys out there. There's that one right there. You deal with him on the phone, and then there's that one where Trey McKinney is his own worst enemy.
See, is that what that's about? Okay. All right,
so Trey McKinney should, in all honesty, Tommy, he should have blown away the Angler of the Year last year.
Absolutely.
And he came out and said this: I got to get out of my own way in certain situations, from, I don't know, running boat wake or no wakes and stuff like that, to coming, I don't know, his mom called him or something.
DQ'd a day. So yeah.
Got DQ'd.
Took him out of the race. Yeah.
We want to see, here's what we want to see with Trey McKinney. We want to see the angelic one and not that little demon McKinney.
No.
Okay?
We want the one on this shoulder, not that shoulder. Yeah. That's
exactly. And I mean what I'm going to say about this, and we actually talked about it in the last Bassmaster Elite. He's an interesting young man. Here's what I can tell you. He has all the potential in the world to be one of the best Bassmaster Elite Series fishermen ever. Yeah. Get out of your own way, dude. And that's across the board. I can tell you that this angler, and we'll talk about it here in a minute, and JT Tompkins were under some of the biggest scrutiny from the rest of the field, yeah. Tommy, fair to say, that we have ever seen on the Bassmaster Elite. But we'll talk about that more here in a second.
And I think it's also fair to say we'll learn a whole lot more about Trey and JT too with this next season here. I mean, Trey, you look at his season, he was always, no matter how he got there, he was always landing in the right place, and he always successfly exploited being.
Which is amazing.
It's amazing. It's quite amazing.
Show that demon McKinney again. Let me see that again. Where's that? Throw that demon up real quick. Where's that at?
They have to catch him first. He's slippery. They got to catch him before they can throw him up on.
Exactly right. Trey McKinney. Good stuff right there.
They say it's coming. It's coming. Yeah, I do kind of want to see that again. It's not very kind of us to put that up there.
Not really. It's
that's not what we're here for.
Linda Blair. Look at that right there. You know. That is absolutely horrifically. All right. From first flight. I think that was a good first flight. We're going to go to last flight. Yep. And these are anglers. Look, I think I'm probably like every Bassmaster live viewer at the end of the day when you click on results, and I know you do this, Sanders. Yeah. You look at the top 10 and then you look at the bottom 10.
It's fair to say. Yeah. It's like you got to slow down for the car wreck. You got to slow down for the car wreck.
That is what last flight is about. It's the bottom. And the reason, before we get to my first angler that we want to dig out, last flight, it's not anglers that you might see down there consistently. I'm going off the 2024 season where I looked at certain names down there and I'm like, whoa, what are you doing there? You're too good for this. Number 4 from Kentucky, Matty Robertson. Matty Robertson, how are you in last flight? And one of the biggest reasons I say, Matt Robertson, why are you in last flight? Matt Robertson has accomplished something on the Bassmaster Elite Series. No, I'm sorry, not on the Bassmaster Elite Series. Qualifying for 2 classics, one in the team championship, the other one winning an open in, I think it was 2020, and then he won it on Cherokee and then went to the 20. Making the classic in 2 ways outside of the Elite Series. And not only that, I have been in the boat with Matt Robertson, a chronic nutbag, but an incredible bass fisherman. Matt Robertson, why were you 78th in points? And Tommy, one thing you've said, when we have had Matt Robertson on camera, he has come off of historically great days.
Oh, yeah.
And then his days on camera are just this spun out mess. And I'll be honest, man, he ended up 78th in points, but a couple tournaments prior, there was potential for devastation with Matt Robertson. My number 4 angler, dig yourself out of there, friendo. Number 3, cannot explain it. From Alabama, Scott Canterbury in 86 points, 86th place last year in the points. What are you doing, bud? And here's why. When the jihad happened, and we talked about who the anglers that are going to excel that moved over from FLW, Scott Canterbury is a hammer.
Oh,
not just an Alabama hammer. Look at him holding a giant smallmouth right there. He is the epitome of versatility, and I believe with the schedule that we have, he will be one of the anglers that climbs out of last flight very quickly. The one thing about Scott Canterbury is, man, when he came over from FLW, Tommy, it seemed, you see that Angler of the Year right there. It wasn't just that year when he won Angler of the Year. The very next year, he took 6th place. It seemed like, is this fair? He was on Bassmaster Live every day of the season.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was all about him. We should have named the show after him. He's the one. He's in that top 5 list of people in the Elite Series. I can't believe has not won yet. I mean, and it's a hard thing to do, but the fact that he hasn't won yet surprises me as much as anything.
Number 2, a true anomaly. Scott Martin, where are you at? Why are you in last flight? Were you busy selling Scott Martin merchandise last year?
No.
Having, what do they call them? One of the roundups, a meet and greet. 92nd place in Angler of the Year. And here's what was weird about that. Winning the Open last year on Lake Okeechobee, I do believe Scott Martin will be the first angler off of the last flight list this year, starting obviously at the St. Johns River. Then we're going to Lake Okeechobee. Dude, he did not win Lake Okeechobee last year. He dominated it. And you have to wonder, did that make you just go for it the rest of the season? I don't know. It could have. But the other thing, here's one other thing that's strange that I looked at with Scott Martin. He was a monster year in, year out on the FLW, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Always in contention to win events, always in contention to win Angler of the Year. In 2021, 42nd. 2022, 38th. 23, 44th place. Since he's been on the Bassmaster Elite Series, he has had to fight, claw, and scratch, basically, to make the Bassmaster Classic. When he said, I am only here for one thing, and that's to win a Bassmaster Classic, he has barely qualified for that so far on the Elite Series. Look for a big season. Need it from Scott Martin. All right, number 1, this one, you cannot explain this. You cannot explain this.
No.
Joey Cifuentes.
No, I saw that.
I have no idea. 96th place in Angler of the Year, coming off of winning in 2023, 5th place in Angler of the Year, almost won Angler of the Year, won Rookie of the Year, and backed it up with 2 Elite Series victories, one on Seminole, one on Lake St. Clair. The thing I'm looking for with Joey Cifuentes this year, 2 things. The thing I'm looking for, show us the versatility. When we've seen you in the boat, it has been a drop shot, forward-facing sonar. Want to see that versatility from Joey Cifuentes. And I had a friend of his, a good contact at Joey Cifuentes, make a good point. Did he suck last year because of what we call the Nixon factor? He has roomed with Larry Nixon. And look, rooming with Larry Nixon is like having a Bill Belichick in your hotel room. And last year, he did not have that.
No.
Okay? Again, I'm going to say this. Anglers, professional anglers, are creatures of habit and don't like change. What was the one variable last year with Joey Cifuentes? The one variable why he didn't catch him. The only thing, and this person that brought this to my attention, I went, do you really think so? And the person said, yeah, I do. The Nixon factor. Joey Cifuentes, number 1 on my last flight.
That's quite a list, and we want to see all those do better. The Scott Martin, I agree with that. That maybe confuses me the most. How do you rewrite the record book in an Open to get tuned up for the season and then sort of fall off a cliff there points-wise? That's unexplainable. Well, I'll offer a couple of other thoughts on my bottom tier there, and it's the only winner in your bottom tier. The only angler that's won on the Elite Series is Cifuentes, which is hard to believe. Hard to believe that those four others have not. But I'm going to talk about some people who have been proven winners in the past, starting with Jamie Hartman. I mean, 8 seasons out here. He started out great, and one season he won twice, 25 top 20s, and he makes it to 100th place in 2024. I can't explain that. No. I don't know his sonar vis-a-vis him situation, but he's so good. He's so good. How does that happen? My second one is a guy with 5 seasons only, but 3 classics he's qualified, 2 wins already for him. Buddy Gross, he is absolutely an expert. Florida, Georgia, kind of things like that. And Buddy Gross, with 12 top 20 finishes, is 99th last year. In 2024. Hard to believe. And of course, my third is going to be, for all the reasons that you mentioned, Joey Cifuentes. So winners, we want you to climb back on the winning horse this year. That's why we mention you.
And granted, one of these anglers probably at the Bassmaster Classic is going to probably corner us in a hotel lobby and take a crack. Yeah, but I got to throw one more in there, and I think he's one of the best fishermen. We've covered him so much. One more that I'm lost on, and he loves duck hunting. Maybe he loved duck hunting a little too much. I can't explain David Mullins. Yeah. I can't do that. 93rd place. To me, David Mullins is a perennial top 30 angler. Look, before the Jihad, David Mullins competed against the full field, the Van Dam, stuff like that.
Everybody.
And he performed.
And got better and better each season too. Yeah.
Like I thought when the year that Clark won during the pandemic, dude, he was so close to cracking that code of catching them offshore on Lake Fork. To see David Mullins' name in 93rd, David Mullins, like a bad season for him should be like 35th.
Oh, yeah.
That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
That's his last flight.
All right, last flight there. So with that in the books there for our first episode here, let's get back. I'd like to hear more about those people we somehow roped into partnering up and sponsoring with us here. Strike King, Z.
Tommy, let's get back to forward-facing sonar and not forward-facing sonar. Going to show you this little chew-chaw right here. If you do get to watch Zona's Awesome Fishing Show, that right there is called a Strike King homing minnow, okay? Mm-hmm. Basically, a finesse internally weighted swim bait. Comes in 3 and 4 inches. That color pretty much is all you need to own. That color is called IU. And the other thing about this is, look, in the world of finesse swim baits, little 2.75 paddle tails, 3.25 with a little jig head. Here's the thing, as we get into more pressured fish offshore, and not only that, what I learned about that little deal right there is we're in the time of year where fish start to largemouth, like to get in canals, start to think about reproducing. That little dude right there, Strike King homing minnow, 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce for largemouth, for very pressured largemouth. Check out this year a Strike King homing minnow for the simple fact, the way that fish are getting conditioned. That thing right there, that Strike King homing minnow, the realistic look that has in absolute weapon. I was able to use that really for the last year before it got to the market. It's on the market right now. A weapon for fishing deep, but do not overlook that homing minnow up shallow this time of year as they come into spawn.
All right, available now. We'll definitely check that out. Thank you, Strike King, for that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mark Zona. And now we're ready for something called Rookie Moves. Rookie Moves is kind of it's a phrase that's not always kind, but I think we're going to be kind with that because we've had a couple of years of the rookies. 2023, we had 4 rookie winners in 2023, and now we're going to talk about 2024. Only 2 rookie winners in 2024, but I mean, it felt like a year of the rookie to me.
Tommy, Besides forward-facing sonar that we kind of kick, I didn't want to kick off the show with forward-facing sonar, but it was too big of a topic last year across the board with anglers, with us, with viewers. To me, the next biggest story last year was two rookies. It was two rookies. It was Trey McKinney and JT Tompkins. And it seemed like between penalty infractions and rumor mill stuff, and then we got to the end of the season, and I called it a chronic embarrassment for JT Tompkins failing a truth verification test on the no information rule. Last year, I felt bad. I felt bad for anglers like John Garrett, for a Kyle Patrick, for a Robert G., a Ben Milliken, because they in a way, a Logan Parks,
Sure.
Anglers that were busting their rear end and then got overshadowed by rule infractions left. And the rule infractions between Trey McKinney and JT Tompkins last year, we had never seen that ever covering the Bassmasters. Okay.
Yeah.
And here, that was a bummer. That was a bummer for a historically great rookie class in 2024 with a bunch of crap that was going on. And here's where I kind of I'm going to leave this right now is, look, Trey McKinney's some of the stuff that he did last year, it wasn't intentional, blowing a no wake. It wasn't intentional, obviously not intentional on Smith Lake coming to the weigh-in late. But where I'm at, not just with not on rookies, is in this sport, if you fail a truth verification on no information more than once, go away. Go away. I really believe this, and I've talked to coworkers about this. If you intentionally, doesn't matter how long you've been on the Bassmasters, whatever it is, to me, you get into a strike two or a strike three of the no information situation, you disbarred, man. That is, you are seeking an advantage, and I think that hurts the sport more than anything across the board. And I feel bad for those rookies last year because they kicked butt. The anglers that were behind them, it really, really kicked butt. That being said, I'm hoping there's less drama this year with the 2025, and I'm going to pick low-hanging fruit on this, man.
Okay.
The reason that if you really look at the anglers coming into this, Easton Fothergill, say it for me, Tommy. Give me his name.
Hello, I am Easton Fothergill. You know, that's the most regal name ever on the Bassmasters since the great Sir James Charlesworth. Do you agree?
Give me that real quick. Give me that one.
Sir James Charlesworth? Or no, Easton Fothergill.
Easton Fothergill.
I am Easton Fothergill. It just has that.
Reason why I picked Easton Fothergill and
it has that posh sound.
Low-hanging fruit. Tucker Smith is, man, if you look at what they have done, not only on the opens. I mean, old boy won 2 opens last year. Sir Easton Fothergill. Tucker Smith across the board from, I think, when he was fishing elementary tournaments to junior high events to high school events. Both of these anglers, that what I believe both of these anglers have proven is versatility across the board. Look, they're both forward-facing sonar hammers. There is no doubt about that. But really what they've proven across the board is their versatility that they've seen so many looks. It's like an offense seeing a defense so many different times. They have seen so many different bodies of water. It's weird to say that these two anglers are coming to the 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series when they already seem they're rookies, yet they seem like they're veterans already.
That's that's kind of the new way of the world. It would seem they're so polished, they're so accomplished. Tucker Smith, I mean, he's been like at the top of the pile since high school. I mean,
yes.
All-American, national champion, college, high school, win giant money tournament. I mean, is he a rookie? He is technically, right. I think so. Yeah.
Two other anglers, and this is just honorable mention that I'm going to definitely, I think one of them is a little bit low-hanging fruit. Let me throw out Paul Marks, and I'm going to throw out, because he was my guy last year, and he made it in, Emil Wagner, guides on Lake Lanier. Those two anglers also, they've seen a lot of defenses. They've seen a lot of defenses by what I'm saying right there. They've seen a lot of different bodies of water, and you just look at how these anglers stacked up last year on the opens. Let's just have, let me rewind. Less drama with the rookies in 2025, fair to say.
All right. And I would just have one more to add. And I just realized he's not really a rookie, but he did so great last year in the EQs, and that's Cody Meyer. And Cody Meyer is just a well-traveled, super successful angler, just like Dakota Ebert, who has not fished the Elite Series. That's really what defines him. So Cody Meyer is going to. But I'm with you. The greatest point you made there is these rest of these 9 anglers who came from the EQs deserve giant props, because all of the 24 Tackle Warehouse EQ rookies made the Classic, and none of them finished lower than 28th place. Think about that. I mean, how can that'll never be top. I say that, and I'm always wrong. Yeah.
My vibe is you could very well see that again with the group of rookies that are coming. No, Dakota Hebert and Cody Meyer, obviously not rookies. They're as well seasoned as it gets. But the other rookies that are coming, it's like after these anglers get out of college and then really bite into the opens. Look, it always used to be, Tommy, when we would cover rookies, for the most part, it's almost like Jordan Lee started the trend of when you come out of college, you just kick butt for the most part.
Start rolling people up.
Van Dam did 74 years ago. Yeah. These anglers that come out of the opens, they're ready to tangle, because for the most part, it always took 3 to 5 years on the Elite Series, on the Bassmasters, to sink in and move on. That is not the case anymore. Very well seasoned, and for the most part, media-wise, very well seasoned off the water as well.
Now that is our rookie moves. Do we have one more rookie move? Do we have a piece of tape? Maybe
Ricky, where are you at, Ricky? Where are you at, Ricky?
We got
need
one more.
What is the deal?
The
Tommy?
Rookie move of the year last year. Yeah, hold on. I think they're finding it right now. They're looking through the Rolodex, the video Rolodex, and they're going to locate that.
Hey, we're not quite tight yet on our on we're not quite tight. Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Yes, move.
Rookie move.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Kyle Patrick.
Kyle
Patrick.
I can't.
Yes. What did you just do?
What is the deal?
My trolling motor, dude.
Tommy, that's when I gave him the name the Fruit Bat.
That's right. And it's not so much Kyle, great guy, great season, but the star of that clip is actually Lee Livesey. His initial reaction is, yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. So.
And that was the time of day on Lake Murray we needed something to happen. And it's almost like when Kyle Patrick got in the boat, he almost played it off with like, I wonder if the camera got that and went into Mr. Cool Guy mode. Look, I give him credit for jumping back in the boat physically.
Oh my gosh, like a spider monkey. No kidding. I mean, he is back in there unbelievably. And gosh, Kyle Patrick, really, really nice guy. We hate to do it, but he gave us one of our most favorite gifts, and Lee said it. Thank you, Kyle. We were saying it too, because we get multi-year mileage out of scenes like that. You'll see that more probably in 2025. All right, rookie moves now. Now it's complete. Can we go on to what's the deal? Yeah, what is the deal?
Keep it going.
All right.
Keep it going.
All right, let's keep it going. All right, what is the deal?
Tommy, I'm just going to trench in. I'm going to trench in. Give me more.
Okay, wait a second. Wait, Z, stop. Yeah. We have one thing. We have one thing, a late addition to what is the deal that we want to lead with. So let's listen to this really quickly here.
I have 3 friends and I will name them John and Vinay, and here's what they say. Meow, meow, ruff, 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 ruff. Hee-haw, 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 hee-haw.
What is the deal, Tommy? Thank you.
What is the deal? What? Okay, answer that. What is the deal with that?
That's that was a elementary school song that I sang to you one time at commercial break. I know that's exactly what is the deal. We're going to talk about the entry fees and kind of what went on back in the fall. That was an interesting way the no entry fee situation came about. Basically, B.A.S.S announced. And what's funny was I'm going to go back to that day. They announced there was a no entry fee. And I got a pile of texts. I was taping that day, got a pile of texts. A bunch of anglers were happy. And then a bunch of anglers were on fire when they looked at what the no entry fee initially.
That surprised you, right?
It did surprise me. Look, the top of it looked fantastic, $100,000. But then you kind of got down there around 20th place and 30th place. And I don't know, it went down around 4. I think there was at one point you won like $17 for cashing a check on the Elite Series. And no, I don't. I think B.A.S.S, Chase Anderson and Phillip, the whole crew. Here's what I believe on that, Tommy. I believe the intentions were good. But when it came out, it was a surprise to a lot of the anglers. Initially, I'm sure I thought when there was no entries that it was going to be the same paybacks we were under. And I looked at it, I'm like, there's going to be some arrows. And I did myself. I texted Chase about it. I know some of the other folks that we work with did. And here's where I do give a hats off to this is, do I think it's the right direction to go to? Of course, you can't argue that. $40,000 to $50,000 in entry fees on a young man or a family, on any human on earth, that's a lot of money. Where things did get better was the Angler Council. I want to say it was Lee Livesey, John Cruz, Mark Menendez. I'm missing somebody. Mark Menendez went and met with B.A.S.S and went to a $10,000 shortly after the initial announcement, went to a $10,000 to really beef up the middle to the end.
Take it down to 50
last.
at least. Take it down to 50, right? Yes.
And look, and here's who really look. The majority of the field, you know this, Tommy. A lot of the anglers that are watching this goofy podcast, the majority of the anglers, for the most part, they're not there to win, to be Johnstons. Johnstons try to win. Patrick Walters try to. Jordan Lee. Those anglers try to win every single event. A big number to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic, to re-qualify for the Elite Series. For the most part, you always hear this. What's it gonna take to get a check? What's it gonna take to get a check? And that's where they beefed up that area of the $10,000 entry fee. And that's where I do give credit of B.A.S.S meeting with that council, adjusting it for the better. But here's where I sit on that is, man, you just hope 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that we're heading that way, that we're not heading this way. We headed this way for a really, really long time with paybacks. And that's where we look. That's how these anglers pay bills and stuff like that. Again, I think the intention is good. Obviously, we're going to see how it works out by the end of this season. But what is, Ricky, give it to me. What is the deal? Let's head that direction. Let's head in that direction.
Hey, what is the deal? That's the voice of Greg Hackney, our buddy,
yes.
Greg Hackney right there. And Hackney's had some interesting takes on it. A big fan of it, as initially announced, and he made several points, one of them being the 100-plus roster on the Elite Series. The Elite Series is not there to support all 100-plus, right? You get a chance. You don't get guaranteed support. aside from winnings, right?
Throughout the hunting season, and I sat and I just listened to Hackney, and Hackney was one of those anglers. And there's several of these anglers that should you get a check for 55th place, for 60th, for 65th place? I don't know, man. What are you saying? Wow, I was in the bottom 40% and cashed a check. That's a little bit psychotic. That's like saying that the Bears should have went to a wild card this year. But Hackney was one of the ones, at least where it's ended up now. He was in total support of it because look, he said, yeah, I'm going to pay $10,000 this year, but I'm also going to save $30,000 off the bottom line. Yeah. So it was an interesting time. I'm glad that Angler Council came about and talked to Bass. You want to see it heading that way moving forward to make it really, really legitimate moving forward years to come.
And I know at one point when we were talking about including this in the show today, you're talking about it really does bring a lot more people in. It makes it a possibility to compete on the Elite Series for more people, right? Who couldn't afford it otherwise.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point to where, look, a lot of our viewers, every area, every region in this country has a hammer that could never afford to fish the Bassmasters. There are so many anglers across this country that could get on the Bassmasters tomorrow and kick teeth in. But that entry fee was always a fear factor that they've got to come up. Look, they might be supporting a family. Look, they might come from a family that doesn't hand you 6 credit cards. For me, looking at this right now, you look at a young guy. Rewind time. I bring Gerald Swindle name up. You could bring a Greg Hackney's name up. Those dudes didn't come from silver spoons. No. They didn't. Something like this for rookies that come in that don't come from silver spoons, that young regional hammer, maybe not even that young regional hammer, somebody that looks at this that's in their 30s, their 40s, and says, hey, I can accomplish this now financially. That's a very interesting dynamic that might bring some of that blood into the Elite Series that might not have otherwise when they had to pay $40,000 to $50,000. That's a great point.
Yeah. Well, that's where we'll continue to talk about that, I think, a little bit through the year as we take the temperature of which anglers and how they feel when it was announced and how they're feeling halfway through the things. Now, what's coming up next? Well, take a look.
Here comes the weigh-in.
Yep. That's what it is.
The weigh-in. Yeah, it's time for you to weigh in, Mark Zona.
Tommy, and that guy, that dude, that was at Lake Oneida.
Yes,
and
it was.
He actually invited me. We were at the fairgrounds at Oneida, if you remember that. That dude invited me to a Motley Crue concert that night.
Yeah, that's who was playing. Yeah, that's who was playing at the stadium there. That was good. And I'm glad you went. I'm glad that two of you got to make it. That was cool.
We did. Yeah. We did. It was a big time backstage. We killed it. Here's what we're going to weigh in on. And it's something back in the day, covering Bassmaster Live. I couldn't. Anglers that give us the juice, and anglers that don't. And here's what I mean by that is, look, I'm like I think I worked with you, Tommy, for 20 years to try to become a better bass fisherman. For the most part, our viewers, yeah, they have their favorites and stuff like that. But the motto of Bassmaster is we're here to make you better anglers, to catch more fish. And look, I know that these anglers have a job to do, and it's not us being in their hair. But as you know, here's how I would cover a tournament: is I wanted, number one, honesty to pass on to the viewer of the leaders of the event. And I know that's a pain when you're on the water for 8 hours. It's a pain to talk to goons like us and give up the juice. And so what I'm going to go through 3 on each side that have been fantastic.
The best and the worst.
And I might even.
Okay.
What's that?
The best and the worst. Okay.
The best and the worst. But I might name a few throughout the years that were the best and maybe some of the really worst.
Okay.
I'm going to go through right now the best ones right now that I've worked with for either the past 10 years or the past 10 months. I'm going to look at a Brandon Polinick. Dude, if you are a high school angler, if you're a college angler, there is no better mold than that guy right there on the water, off the water, just phenomenal. Absolutely he's a marketing genius. And you can also throw it. I'm gonna take a right. You can throw it to who he hangs with, a Carl, a Gussie. They want to not only win, but they want to give the viewer an experience of honesty and integrity. From there, I'm going to go to one other, and this one's interesting. Jason Christie. Jason Christie has been a pleasure, Tommy Sanders,
Absolutely.
A pleasure
all the way
to
through.
work with. And here's something that he possesses. Dude, I'll give you exactly what I'm doing, and if somebody can do it better, good luck. Really, it's staggering how easy it's been to cover Jason Christie, because his roommate in the past, it was the worst. I'll talk about him in a second. From there, I'm going to one more, and that is Ben Milliken. Ben Milliken, a very eerily similar trait of Jason Christie. This is a big bait hammer, and he made the comment. Number one, if somebody can do it better. But something that Milliken said last year, what can I do to make, this was the first time we covered him on Toledo Bend. Mm-hmm. And Tommy, I told you this, he made a comment, what can I do to make the viewer experience better? And I was like, what planet did you just come from?
what time are you due back on your planet? Yeah.
What going on over here right now? And the other side of that is, and I need to be very clear about this, dude, throughout the years, guys like Van Dam, Dean Rojas, for the most part, 95% of them have historically been fantastic. But then there's that 5% that does not play the game, and the game
and
is
they come from all sort of situations, right? Yeah,
very odd situations. I'm going to start with one, and we love him. Yeah, he's been on this show this podcast all day. Patrick Walters. Patrick Walters will lie to your face about the body of water he's on. Literally, this is Lake Murray, and he'd say, "No, this footage is not. No, this is from Clarks Hill. This is not Lake Murray." Patrick Walters, you could tape a fishing show with him, and he will not tell you the region of the lake that we should probably be fishing. Not only that, in this tournament, this exact tournament right here, I said, Patrick, on that spinning rod, what are you throwing? Oh, I'm just throwing a Zoom Fluke. Tommy, he didn't throw a Zoom Fluke. It happened at that event, right? Patrick Walters, you are number 3. You're a stone cold liar.
Oh, gosh.
Number two, and I took this angler off of my call list. I've only called him 2 times in my lifetime. Matty Wong, you're probably laughing at this right now. Called him once my rookie season. And I said, Matty, it was on the St. John's River. I think it was the first event. I said, Matty, can you walk me through what you're doing? He's like, oh, I'd rather no. I said, not a problem. I said, I got to go. Got to work on other things. Tommy, he was throwing a worm in a canal. Okay. It's not like there was something in there. Yeah. The next time I called Matty, it was on Lake Chickamauga, the same tournament that we just looked at with Jason Christie. I think Matty had like a pound the first day, then caught 27 pounds the second day. And you can only do that on a certain baits. One of those baits being a swim bait to go from 2 pounds to 20-some pounds. Yeah. And I said, Matty, can you kind of walk me through what we're going to see on the show tomorrow for the viewer? I said, are you throwing a swim bait? Because that's a big comeback. And he said, you said that. I didn't say that. I said, Matty, I got to go. I said, we're done. We're done forever. And the next day he was throwing a mag draft on bluff banks and laydowns. Not the most scientific. From there, I've picked on him. Koya Fujita, where are you at? Koya has told us he's thrown a jackal drift minnow for the past 2 years on the Elite Series. Tommy, I don't think we have seen him catch a bass on that lure one time.
How would we know? How would we know? Yeah.
How would we know?
Yeah,
well,
because we do not see the bait.
And not only that, I'm going to call out our Bassmaster cameramen and women that have been in Koya's boat, because they purposely do not pan in on Koya's lures, per Koya asking them not to pan in on the lures. So I did. Now listen,
address that.
I was on site. At the Lake St. Clair event, and I went up to Koya, and he had his translator there, and I said, Koya, exact lures right now, exact lures. And he started whispering to his translator, and that's when I realized Koya and I, we were not going to connect.
Yeah.
On anyway, having fun with some of these.
You've dealt with this for 20 years. You dealt with it 20 years straight.
Here's what I will say.
Okay.
None of them as bad as the number one ever, Edwin Evers.
Okay.
He was, and here's the thing. It was more of a paranoia with Edwin. Would you say, Tommy?
Yeah,
with the media.
Yeah.
Me. Right.
I thought Edwin, it was me, but maybe you. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Okay.
I asked Edwin. He was a top 10 at a Bassmaster Classic, and we do basically we're going to grill you in a room, and he looked so mad and so uneasy. And I said, Edwin, why are you so angry? Like, what at the Classic makes you so mad? And he looked at me and he goes, all of you. And he pointed out. That being said, I will call Edwin out on this.
Okay.
I will call Edwin. Yeah. Let me call him out on one other thing.
Okay.
The cameramen used to flip coins on who had to go in his boat and deal with him for 8 hours. So Edwin was always the number one challenge of finding out. And again, there was just a lot of overblown, frightening, like paranoia with Edwin Evers. Yeah.
One differing viewpoint I will offer, and I was talking to our friend Steve Bowman about this very question, and I said, it's not just about the baits, is it? He said, no, I don't think it's even half the time it's about a magic bait that nobody wants you to see. They don't want the bait to show you what the fish are doing. When you let a whole bunch of other people in on what the fish are doing at that particular time, maybe that's some of the motivation for being secretive about things like that. And that's part of it, right? Part of it.
Tommy, Bassmaster Live, if you fish a lot of tournaments, you could turn on Bassmaster Live for the most part and know exactly what. And maybe that's one of the reasons. I believe this. Bassmaster Live shows you everything, unless said angler turns his back to the camera and you can't see the bait he's throwing. Besides that, you know the cadence, you know the area of the lake. That's something we'll probably dive into in the TnZ podcast here down the line. But for the most part, you could really pick up in a matter of about, 37 seconds how an angler's catching them.
I think he was kind of talking about pre-Bassmaster Live days,
Yes.
That was part of it.
I will tell you, I think anglers like Denny was a grizzly bear to cover. I think that's one of the reasons why Edwin was a bear to cover, is because before Bassmaster Live, their secrets truly were their secrets against their competition. Yeah. And then when Bassmaster Live came along, it did. Some anglers embraced that. A Dean Rojas, I said his name, a Greg Hackney, a Kevin Van Dam, and an Aaron Martins. They embraced Bassmaster Live, to where other anglers didn't, because it was a new monster, and they were trapped like us in that transition.
yeah, that's right. All right. Let's give one more shot. Let's give Strike King a little more time here. They deserve it.
Get ready for this, Tommy Sanders. Actually, that time of year, lipless crankbait bait fishing, right there. Strike King red eye shad. And actually, this is going to be the lure, okay? You go to Mark Zona Fishing Instagram, and all you have to do is put up the color of this. It's the best color on earth this time of year. Striking red eye shad in color. I'm going to give it to you. Baby carp. Whoever picks that, I'm going to randomly pick you. I'm going to send you all of this. And here's the other thing about this, Tommy Sanders. You look at that red-eye shad. That was tied on my rod with Greg Hackney 3 days ago, and that bait was brand new. Brand new. That is only 5 hours of work on that red-eye shad. So going through the grand spectrum of lose and striking, again, big thanks. Go to my Instagram page. All you got to do is type baby carp. I'm going to pick one of you. Tommy, go there after this podcast.
Oh, I'm on it.
Look, I'm a cheater. I'm a cheater on these little contests.
Just help me
I'll
out.
pick you to get my stuff back. No, I'm not.
I won't give it back.
Again, red-eye shad, color baby carp, best color this time of year, now until about the end of April. Throw the color baby carp that looks just like that reel right there.
Take a tip from a man who knows, Mark Zona, and that is our Strike King moment. Now, we got one more order of business here. Speaking of a guy who's in the know, we're going to ask you, Mark Zona, and I'm going to chime in as well, the favorite for the first stop of the Bassmaster Elite Series 2025, St. John's River, Palatka, Florida. Who's going to win it?
Okay, here we go. Can we play that music more?
It is so
like
regal.
that. That was
It's like
majestic.
Olympics.
Absolutely. Here's where I'm at with the St. John's River. Again, you were the one that brought this to light. Rodman will be out of play, off limits. The last time we've been there, the last two times, a lot of the forward-facing sonar, it went down in Rodman, okay?
Yeah.
Especially when John Cruz won. Not as much when Corey won last year. But here's where I'm at with the St. John's River. And I sat down with them. I asked Greg Hackney, I said, dude, how many times? I said, Sanders and I have covered you on the St. John's River. It seems like every single time
stretch of
that we've been there.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you have 6 or 7 top 10s without a victory there? And he goes, oh, hey man, it's coming. It's coming. That's why I'm going with my partner in crime, the sewer rat, Greg Hackney, your champion, the St. John's River Bassmaster Elite Series event.
All right, mark it down. That's Zona's pick right there. I'm going to offer my pick as well. Our producer Mike asked me about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, said, who are you going to pick? I can't have you guys picking the same guys. So, well, Corey Johnston won it last year. Where did Chris Johnston finish? Oh, top 5 is, Chris Johnston. No doubt about it. That's who I'm picking. The way he sort of just padded his case while he let Corey go. He knew Corey was going to win. And the way he kind of padded his case and just didn't bring too much knowledge, but enough to really do great there. I don't see what's stopping him this year.
No, that's a very, very solid pick. But like we said, we are going to hold each other accountable, and we'll keep a running tab of picks throughout the year. Chris Johnson, that's an interesting one. I was close. I was so frighteningly close to going John Cox on that event.
There you go. Especially with no Rodman. Yes. Yeah, that's
yes,
a good one
I
too.
was very, very close to going John Cox. Hackney he just has too many. He has too many cypress trees to flip, as you said. And here's one last thing I want to say about Greg Hackney. I really believe this. I believe as excited to see him. Look, I think he was one of those anglers last year that got a little bit spun out from the forward-facing sonar and a little bit spun out from the rookie B.S. that was going on. I think he has cleansed himself mentally.
Okay.
I've done some laugh coaching for him. I think Greg Hackney, I think he has a really legitimate shot nearing the end of his career to make a run, especially with the schedule that I could see Greg Hackney holding his second Angler of the Year title this year. I could see that.
All right. We'll mark down all these predictions. Low-hanging fruit will be punished next time around. That's when we'll see you.
We will.
Here, a 3 weeks, we'll be back with another edition of TnZ. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for a long time
What is
today.
the deal?
Yeah, what is the deal?